You wake up in the middle of the night and reach for your phone before you even know why. The silence feels wrong, threatening somehow, like something you need to fill immediately. During the day, you keep the television on in the background, not because you are watching it, but because the quiet makes you feel too exposed, too aware of something you cannot quite name. When you find yourself with an empty afternoon, the first instinct is to call someone, text someone, scroll through anything that puts other voices in your head. And beneath all of this restless reaching outward, there is a feeling you have learned not to examine too closely. A sense that being alone means being weak, being insufficient, being somehow less than whole. You have tried to address this. You have read about self-care and self-love. You have attempted meditation apps and journaling practices, but the discomfort remains, that subtle panic that rises when you are left with only yourself for company. You have come to believe, perhaps without ever stating it explicitly, that needing people is strength, that connection is everything, that the ability to be alone is either a temporary state to be endured or a sign that something has gone wrong in your life. What if I told you that this belief, this equation of aloneness with weakness, is not just incomplete but backwards? That there exists a form of strength so fundamental, so essential to human dignity and freedom, that it can only be born in complete solitude. Let me be clear about what I mean by solitude, because the word has been so misunderstood, so conflated with loneliness, that we have nearly lost its true meaning. Loneliness is the pain of unwanted isolation, the ache of feeling cut off from others, the experience of being alone when you desperately wish not to be. Solitude is something else entirely. Solitude is the condition of being alone with yourself by choice, not as exile but as homecoming, not as deprivation but as encounter. Hannah Arendt understood this distinction with a clarity that feels almost jarring in our current moment. She saw that the capacity for solitude, what she called the vita contemplativa, or the life of the mind, was not a luxury or an indulgence, but a necessity for human freedom. Without it, we become, in her words, mere functions, responsive only to external demands, incapable of the internal dialogue that makes genuine thought, genuine action, genuine selfhood possible. Think about your own experience for a moment. When was the last time you were truly alone? Not just physically by yourself, but alone in the sense of being undistracted, unconnected, unavailable. Not scrolling, not listening to something, not planning what you will say to someone later, but simply present with your own consciousness. For most of us, such moments are vanishingly rare. We have constructed lives that make solitude nearly impossible. Our phones ensure we are never more than seconds away from input, from distraction, from the voices and opinions and needs of others. Our culture tells us that productivity means constant activity, that rest means passive consumption of entertainment, that being alone is what you do when you have failed at being with others, and so we find ourselves perpetually accompanied, perpetually stimulated, and somehow perpetually exhausted. This exhaustion is not incidental. It is the exhaustion that comes from never returning to yourself, never checking in with the actual texture of your own experience, your own thoughts, your own sense of what is real and true for you. You become like a person who only ever speaks and never listens, whose voice grows hoarse and whose mind grows confused because there is no pause, no reflection, no internal echo against which to measure the words. Arendt described thinking as a dialogue between me and myself, a kind of internal companionship where consciousness splits into questioner and answerer, examiner and examined. This is not narcissism or navel-gazing. It is the fundamental activity through which we become capable of judgment, of deciding what we believe, what we value, what we will stand for or refuse to accept. Without this internal dialogue, we are at the mercy of whatever voice is loudest in the external world. The strength born in solitude is precisely this capacity for self-interrogation, for internal disagreement, for holding multiple perspectives within your own consciousness and working through them until something clarifies. It is the strength to say, I do not know what I think until I think about it, the strength to change your mind when your thinking reveals something new, the strength to stand against popular opinion because you have checked with yourself and found you cannot agree. This is not the strength of stubbornness or ego. It is the strength of someone who has developed an inner anchor, a sense of self that is not merely reactive, not merely shaped by external pressure and social approval. Consider what happens to people who never experience solitude. They become what Arendt would call thoughtless, not in the sense of being unkind, but in the sense of being unable to think. They repeat what they have heard. They conform to expectations without examining them. They experience their lives as a series of reactions to external circumstances, rather than as a coherent narrative shaped by their own values and choices. They are, in a very real sense, not fully present to their own existence. They live on the surface of themselves, never diving deep enough to encounter the complexity, the contradictions, the difficult questions that require real thought to address. If this perspective is opening something up for you, consider subscribing. I explore these territories every week, and I would love to have you along for the journey. There is a particular kind of fear that prevents solitude, and it is worth examining because it reveals something essential about why solitude is so difficult for us. The fear is not really about being alone. It is about what you might encounter when you are alone. In solitude, without distraction, you come face to face with the reality of your own mind, your own feelings, your own unfinished business. You notice the anxieties you have been outrunning. You feel the grief you have been postponing. You confront the questions you have been avoiding. Most powerfully, you meet yourself not as you wish to be seen by others, not as you present on social media, or at work or in relationships, but as you actually are, with all your contradictions and uncertainties and uncomfortable truths. This encounter requires courage. It requires the willingness to be with discomfort, to sit with questions that have no easy answers, to acknowledge parts of yourself you would rather disown. Our culture has taught us to experience this as weakness, as something to be fixed or medicated or therapized away as quickly as possible. But Arendt saw it differently. She understood that this encounter with oneself, however uncomfortable, is where human dignity begins. It is where you stop being merely a social role, a collection of other people's expectations, and become an actual person with internal coherence and autonomous judgment. The strength born in solitude is not about becoming independent in the sense of not needing anyone. That would be a diminishment, not a strength. Human beings are social creatures, and our deepest meanings emerge in relationship, in what Arendt called the space between people, where action and speech create the human world. But to enter that space authentically, to offer genuine relationship rather than just need and performance, you must first know who you are bringing to the encounter. You must have spent time in solitude, in that internal dialogue, where you discover what you actually think and feel as distinct from what you have been told to think and feel. I know many of you watching this have been afraid of being alone, maybe for most of your lives. You have filled every empty moment, kept yourself perpetually busy or connected or distracted, because the alternative feels dangerous somehow. You have never told anyone about this fear because it seems like it should not be a fear at all, because independence is supposed to be easy, because adults are supposed to be comfortable with themselves. But here is what I want you to understand. The moment you acknowledge this, the moment you name it, even just in a comment below, something shifts. You stop running from it. You start becoming curious about it. So let me ask you directly, when was the last time you were truly alone without distraction? Can you remember what it felt like? I want you to share this in the comments, not because I need engagement, but because your honesty creates permission for others to be honest too. Someone reading your comment will realize they are not the only one who fears silence, who reaches for the phone without thinking, who does not know how to just be with themselves. And if words feel too difficult right now, if this is touching something you have never articulated before, just type this: I am learning to be alone, that is all. Just those 5 words. Because when you do, you join dozens of others in admitting we were never taught this, that it is okay not to know how, that we are learning together. Your willingness to name this fear, it breaks the isolation that keeps us all secretly ashamed. So comment below. Tell me about your relationship with solitude. I read every single one, and I promise you are not strange or weak for finding this difficult. Now let me tell you something that may surprise you. Solitude is not natural. It is not something human beings do instinctively or easily. For most of human history, being alone was dangerous. We survived in groups, and isolation meant vulnerability to predators, to starvation, to the elements. The fear you feel when you are alone has deep evolutionary roots. Your nervous system is telling you that something is wrong, that you should reconnect with the group immediately. What has changed is not our biology, but our circumstances. We live in a world where physical survival no longer requires constant group proximity, where you can be safe while alone, where solitude is actually possible in a way it never was for our ancestors. But we have not caught up psychologically. We are still operating from that ancient programming that says alone equals danger. This is why learning solitude is a practice, not a revelation. It requires deliberately overriding your instincts, sitting with discomfort until your nervous system learns that you are safe, that being alone does not mean being in danger. It requires starting small, perhaps with just 10 minutes of sitting without input, without distraction, without reaching for your phone. Not meditating necessarily, not trying to empty your mind or achieve some special state, but simply being present to whatever arises. Thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, the quality of light in the room, the sound of your own breathing. Just being there, awake and aware and unoccupied. What you will discover, if you persist, is that your mind is noisier than you realized. Thoughts cascade without pause. Plans and worries and memories and fragments of songs and imaginary conversations all tumble through awareness in a chaotic stream. This is normal. This is what minds do when they are not focused on external tasks. And this is exactly what most people find so intolerable about solitude. The noise, the lack of control, the sense that your own mind is not a peaceful place to be. But here is where the strength begins to emerge. As you continue to sit with this noise, something remarkable happens. You start to notice patterns. Certain worries repeat themselves. Certain narratives play on loop. Certain feelings arise predictably in response to certain thoughts. You begin to see that much of what you experience as your mind is actually a collection of habits, of learned responses, of stories you tell yourself so often you have forgotten they are stories. And in seeing this, in becoming conscious of the patterns, you gain a small but crucial bit of distance from them. They are still there, still noisy, still insistent, but they are no longer you in quite the same way. You are the awareness noticing them, not just the noise itself. This is what Arendt meant by the two-in-one, the split within consciousness that makes thinking possible. You become simultaneously the one who experiences and the one who observes the experience, the one who believes and the one who questions the belief, the one who acts and the one who reflects on the action. This internal dialogue is what prevents thoughtlessness. It is what allows you to catch yourself when you are about to do something you will regret, to notice when you are operating from fear or habit rather than genuine choice, to recognize when the story you are telling yourself is not actually true. The strength born in solitude is the strength of this observing consciousness, this capacity to step back from immediate experience and ask, what is really happening here? What do I actually think about this? What do I really want, as opposed to what I think I should want? These are not easy questions. They do not have quick answers. They require time and space and the willingness to tolerate uncertainty. They require solitude. In our connected age, we have created the illusion that we can think together, that collective intelligence replaces individual thought, that crowdsourcing and social media discussions are adequate substitutes for the difficult work of forming your own judgments. But this is a dangerous confusion. Groups can share information. They can pool knowledge. They cannot think for you. They cannot do the internal work of sorting through contradictions, weighing evidence, examining assumptions, deciding what you believe and why you believe it. That work is irreducibly individual. It requires solitude. Without this capacity, you become what Arendt saw in totalitarian societies, a person who accepts whatever the group says because you have never developed the internal resources to question it. You become suggestible, manipulable, dependent on external validation for your sense of what is real and true. You lose, in other words, your freedom. Not freedom in the political sense, though that follows, but freedom in the deeper sense of being self-directed, of having internal authority, of knowing your own mind. This is why solitude is not selfish or antisocial. It is the precondition for genuine social life, for entering relationships as a whole person, rather than as a collection of needs and performances. When you know yourself through solitude, when you have developed that internal dialogue that Arendt described, you bring something real to your relationships. You can disagree without falling apart. You can be alone without feeling abandoned. You can give to others without depleting yourself, because you are not trying to extract your sense of self from their approval or attention. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people in a conversation. The first person speaks from a place of inner solidity. They have spent time with themselves. They know what they think, what they value, what they are willing to stand for. When they disagree with you, it is not personal. They are not trying to dominate you or prove themselves. They are simply sharing their perspective, and they remain open to yours because they are not threatened by difference. They can hold their position and still hear you, still change their mind if you offer something compelling, still remain in relationship even if you never agree. The second person has never learned solitude. They do not know what they think until they hear themselves speak, and even then they are not sure. They are constantly reading your reactions, adjusting their position based on whether you seem to approve or disapprove. They cannot hold complexity or contradiction. They need you to agree with them because their sense of being right, being good, being acceptable depends on external validation. If you disagree, they experience it as rejection, as attack, as evidence that they are fundamentally wrong or bad. Which person would you rather talk to? Which person would you rather be? The difference between them is not intelligence or education or inherent personality. It is the capacity for solitude, for that internal dialogue where you learn to know and trust yourself. Now let me address a common misunderstanding. When I speak of solitude, I am not advocating withdrawal from the world, becoming a hermit, rejecting relationship or community. Arendt herself was deeply engaged in public life, in political thought and action, in friendship and intellectual community. Solitude is not an alternative to social life. It is the foundation for it. You alternate between the two. You go out into the world, you engage, you act, you speak, you relate. Then you return to solitude to process what happened, to think about what it meant, to integrate the experience, to prepare yourself for the next engagement. This rhythm, this movement between solitude and society, between contemplation and action, is what allows for a rich and meaningful human life. Without solitude, you remain on the surface, reacting but never reflecting, accumulating experiences but never understanding them, speaking but never thinking. Without society, you lose the very material that thought works on, the encounters and conflicts and questions that arise only in relationship with others. You need both. But in our current moment, the balance has been lost. We have endless connection and almost no solitude, endless input and almost no reflection, endless speaking and almost no thinking. The cost of this imbalance is visible everywhere. In our politics, where people repeat talking points without understanding them, where nuance is impossible, where disagreement immediately becomes enmity. In our personal lives, where people seek endless validation on social media because they have no internal sense of their own worth, where relationships are transactional because people have no self to bring to them, where anxiety and depression reach epidemic levels because people are exhausted from never being able to rest in their own company. In our culture, where we produce constant content but little wisdom, where we have information overload but cannot make sense of it, where we are more connected than ever and more lonely than ever. This is not inevitable. It is not the human condition. It is the result of specific choices, of technologies and social arrangements and cultural narratives that have made solitude seem unnecessary or even pathological. And it can be changed one person at a time by reclaiming the capacity for solitude, by learning to be alone without distraction, by developing that internal dialogue that makes thinking and freedom possible. What I am offering you is not a technique or a program. It is a reorientation, a different way of understanding what strength means and where it comes from. The strength born in solitude is not the strength to endure isolation. It is the strength to be yourself, to know your own mind, to make judgments based on your own thinking rather than on what you have been told to think. It is the strength to stand alone when necessary, Not because you enjoy conflict, but because you have checked with yourself and found you cannot go along. It is the strength to enter relationships as a whole person, rather than as a half-formed collection of needs and fears. It is the strength to live deliberately rather than reactively, to act rather than merely to behave. This strength is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. People who possess it do not go around proclaiming their independence or their uniqueness. They are simply present in a different way, grounded in themselves while remaining open to others, capable of both conviction and humility, able to be alone and able to connect. You can feel it when you encounter them. There is a quality of realness, of substance, that comes from having spent time in solitude, from having done the work of thinking, from knowing themselves not as they wish to be seen, but as they actually are. You can develop this strength. You are not too damaged, too social, too extroverted, too anything to learn solitude. You simply need to begin. Start with 10 minutes. Sit somewhere comfortable, but not where you usually zone out. Turn off your phone, not on silent, off. Resist the urge to listen to music or podcasts or to read or to do anything productive. Just sit. Be present. Notice what arises. Thoughts, feelings, discomfort, boredom, restlessness, whatever comes. Do not try to change it or fix it or achieve any particular state. Just be there, aware and awake. You will be bad at this at first. Your mind will wander constantly. You will feel anxious, bored, restless. You will think of urgent things you need to do, people you need to contact, problems you need to solve. You will reach for your phone 20 times before you remember you decided not to. This is all normal. This is what everyone experiences when they begin. The practice is not to do it perfectly. The practice is to keep doing it, to keep returning to solitude even when it is uncomfortable, to keep creating space for that internal dialogue to emerge. Over time, something shifts. The noise does not go away, but it becomes less overwhelming. You start to recognize the patterns, the repetitive thoughts, the habitual reactions. You gain some distance from the immediate press of emotion and impulse. You begin to notice, to observe, to think. And in that space of observation and thought, that capacity for internal dialogue, you find something that was always there, but that you could not access in the chaos of constant connection and distraction. You find yourself, not some idealized self, not the person you think you should be, but the actual person you are with all your contradictions and questions and unfinished business. And here is the paradox. When you find yourself in solitude, when you develop that internal dialogue and learn to trust your own thinking, you become more capable of genuine connection, not less. You have something real to offer. You can listen without needing to agree or to fix or to make it about yourself. You can disagree without feeling threatened. You can be alone without feeling abandoned, and together without feeling trapped. You become, in other words, free. Not free in the sense of having no obligations or commitments, but free in the deeper sense of being self-directed, of living from your own center, rather than being blown about by every opinion and expectation and demand. If what I am sharing here resonates with something you have been feeling, something you have not quite been able to name, then I want you to know you are not alone in this. There are many of us exploring these questions, sitting with these uncomfortable truths, learning to see in new ways. I create these videos for people who are ready to go deeper, who are not satisfied with surface answers, who want to understand rather than just feel better temporarily. If that is you, consider subscribing. Not because you need another channel to follow, but because this journey of understanding yourself, of waking up to what is real, it helps to have companions along the way. People who will not offer you easy fixes, but will sit with you in the questions. I will be here every week with another exploration, another perspective, another thread to pull on, and I would be honored to have you here as part of this community of seekers and thinkers. So if this feels right, hit that subscribe button. And if you found value in this particular exploration, let me know in the comments what resonated most with you. Your reflections often illuminate things I had not considered. What has your relationship with solitude been like? Have you found strength there, or only discomfort? Are you learning to be alone, or are you still running from it? Share your experience. I read every comment, and there is wisdom in this community that deserves to be heard. So let me return to where we began. That moment of reaching for your phone in the middle of the night, that discomfort with silence, that sense that being alone means being weak. You can see now that what you took as weakness was actually an avoidance of strength, a running from the very capacity that would make you free. The strength born in solitude is not about being able to endure isolation. It is about being able to encounter yourself, to engage in that internal dialogue that makes thinking possible, to develop the capacity for judgment and autonomy that distinguishes a person from a function. This strength does not come from trying to be strong. It comes from being willing to be uncertain, to sit with questions that have no easy answers, to notice what you would rather not notice, to think rather than merely to react. It comes from solitude, from those moments when you are alone with yourself and cannot hide behind distraction or performance or the opinions of others. It comes from learning to trust that dialogue between me and myself, learning to listen to what emerges in the silence. You already have access to this. You do not need to acquire anything or achieve any special state. You simply need to stop running, to create space, to allow solitude to do its work. The strength is already there, waiting for you in the quiet, in the space between thoughts, in the encounter with yourself that you have been avoiding. All you have to do is be willing to be alone, truly alone, and see what emerges. The gift of solitude is not peace or happiness or any particular feeling. The gift is freedom, the freedom to know your own mind, to trust your own judgment, to live from your own center. This is not a small thing. This is everything. This is what makes it possible to be genuinely present to your own life, to take responsibility for your choices, to create meaning rather than merely consume it. This is the strength that allows you to stand when everyone else sits, to speak when everyone else is silent, to remain human when the world would reduce you to a function. And it is born only in complete solitude, in that encounter with yourself that no one can do for you, that no amount of connection or productivity or distraction can replace. So, perhaps today, perhaps right now, you might simply sit for a few minutes. Turn off the inputs. Be alone. See what happens. See who you meet there. The person you encounter will be the foundation of everything else, the ground from which all genuine thought and action and relationship emerge. Give yourself that gift. Give yourself the strength born only in complete solitude.